He was the first architect to experiment with formed concrete. In other words, concrete that was formed into that corrugated wall placed in our lobby stairwell. So Charles Goodman won probably his greatest recognition in 1941 for designing the original National Airport Terminal building, which was renovated in the 1990s to look like it had in 1941. In other words, it was a recognition that this was a great design and we should go back to it. And so once again, I'm getting into this facet. How much do we want to change the inside of this? For we've won 2 more AIA awards for this sanctuary. The last one was in 2003 for keeping the sanctuary the way it was designed. When Charles Goodman considered our site, he could tell we were on top of a hill. It was already quite a treed location, and he wanted to save as many of the trees as possible. He knew that our denomination valued nature as a large part of our spirituality, and so he wanted to bring the nature inside. And taking in the site height already, he decided that this structure should be a temple on the hill. And the temple he had in mind was Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, which he could abstract into using the precast concrete, which was both an inexpensive product relative to, say, Solomon's cedar beams or joists going across his temple, and he could feed that all into a modern abstract structure. So we have these fabulous windows which give us the sky, the trees, and yet we have this interesting design element of our joists that come out over cantilever, also giving us a little bit more shade inside the sanctuary sometimes when we need it. And then indoors, he gave us the illustration of his temple in this wooden structure that we rather affectionately called the Ark. It's actually hiding a little staircase that goes to the basement, but it does give you the feeling that there might be something mysterious kept in here, like the 10 Commandments. So here are the same proportions of the joists going out, cantilevering indoors, and he used cedar, which would have been the wood used in Jerusalem. Besides the fact that I've spoken that we can use double pane glass with the E gas in the center, you might be aware that there are lots of different types of energy efficient glass now on the market, but for such large windows that we have up here that are approximately 8 foot square, that glass is not in any way economical for us to use, which is really a shame because there's so many wonderful things on the market, but we are very limited because this will be massively expensive to even go to double pane. But adding some of the other features that are available now is just not at all possible for the church to do. The other big consideration in the sanctuary is acoustics. What we've noticed now that we have the new pews is that actually the acoustics have been improved already by the extra cushioning that these new pews provide. And we needed to have the new pews before we had acoustic work testing done again. Testing for the speakers that we have now was done about 4 years ago. And since we planned to probably change the platform and we knew that we were going to be changing the pews, it didn't make a lot of sense to have testing done in here for the future until we had these new pews. Some of the problems in a structure that was essentially built much more for music than for the spoken voice, we've always had the problem that people sitting at the sides and way at the back, they get a type of feedback or echo that makes the spoken word sound mushy. And that may not be a technical word, but that's exactly how it sounds to most people, is a person talking over another person and you can't understand anything after the middle of a sentence. It just all becomes intertwined words on top of one another. We removed the old pews. It gave us this great opportunity to clean up the floor a little bit. And we are discussing also whether we should carpet the floor or part of the floor to aid in the acoustics of the building. But once again, the concrete was part of the design. Form follows function. That was a big mantra of architects in the 1920s through maybe part of the 60s. And then at the end of the 60s, architecture started to take a more traditional look at things.